Mortuary Assistant. The buzz of fluorescent lights. That's the only thing grounding you as you begin your night shift at Riverfield's mortuary. The body on the table looks ordinary enough. Just another embalming, right? But the deeper you get, the more you realize something's watching, and it knows your name. The Mortuary Assistant doesn't rely on loud jump scares. Its horror is way more subtle. It slowly peels back reality while you're distracted filling out paperwork or inserting scalpels. You're not just embalming bodies here. You're performing rituals, trying to identify which corpse is hiding a demon. And if you get it wrong, you might just let it into our world. The game forces you to balance mundane tasks, cleaning tanks, mixing chemicals, with this growing sense of dread that just won't quit. Lights flicker, hallways stretch where they shouldn't. You hear knocking on the walls only to find no one there. And sometimes you look in the mirror and you're not alone. What makes the game truly terrifying isn't gore or speed, it's uncertainty. Is that shadow real? Did the body just move? Are these hallucinations or signs? The lore goes deeper each time you play, hinting at some sinister history behind the mortuary and your own past. Every shift becomes a test, not just of your memory, but your sanity. Faith, the screen flickers. A distorted voice crackles through the speakers. You're not in control anymore. Not fully, anyway. In Faith, the unholy trinity, the horror hides behind lo-fi graphics and chiptune static. But that's exactly what makes it feel so wrong. You play as a priest, Father John Ward, returning to the scene of a failed exorcism. The game takes you back to 1980s Connecticut, but this isn't nostalgia we're talking about. It's dread, painted in pixels. The controls are simple, just a cross in 4 directions. But what you're facing? Anything but simple. Each chapter escalates. Cults following dark forces, people vanishing without a trace, something taking control of innocent minds. And through it all, your cross is the only thing keeping you safe. Holding it out becomes second nature, like a reflex, like breathing. The game blends religious horror with analog-style glitches that'll mess with your head. Walls bleed static. Demons chant in reverse Latin. Even the menus betray you, distorting when evil gets too close. What's impressive is how Faith does so much with so little. It's never about flashy scares, it's about psychological invasion, about not trusting what you see, about guilt. At its core, Faith is a game about penance, about facing what you failed to fix, and the terrifying possibility that some sins can't be forgiven, not by the church, not by God, and definitely not by what's waiting in the woods. Shiki. The summer heat in Sotoba isn't just stifling, it's suffocating. The air hangs heavy with silence, broken only by the relentless screech of cicadas. When people begin dying from anemia, no one suspects the village is being hunted. Shiki is slow burn horror at its most effective. Set in a remote Japanese village, the story follows Dr. Toshio Ozaki as he tries to understand why his patients are dying despite no clear cause. But the truth? It's far darker than any illness. The dead are rising, and they want to feed. The Kirishiki family moves into this mysterious Western-style mansion at the edge of town just as the deaths begin. With their pale skin and unusual habits, suspicion grows, but by the time the villagers realize what's happening, it's already too late. The Shiki, corpse demons, blend in perfectly, targeting the lonely and isolated first, turning loved ones into predators. Shiki doesn't rely on jump scares, its horror lies in inevitability. You watch an entire community unravel. Neighbors turning on each other, families hiding infected relatives, doctors forced to choose between ethics and survival. The fear builds with unbearable tension. Not because you don't know what's coming, but because you do. And there's nothing anyone can do to stop it. The show's real terror is moral, though. What happens when the only way to survive is to become a killer? What if the monsters are just trying to live? And what does that make you? Hell Girl? Midnight. The website only appears at that hour. Type in the name of the person you hate, press send, and your tormentor will be dragged to hell. No questions asked, no turning back. In Hell Girl, revenge is as easy as a click, but the cost? Your soul. At the center is I Enma, a girl with crimson eyes and an expression that never changes. She appears with a straw doll in hand, offering you a choice. Pull the red string and seal your enemy's fate. But when your life ends, you'll go to hell too. That's the deal. Each episode tells a self-contained story, often focusing on bullying, abuse, betrayal, and injustice. Victims come from all walks of life. Students, workers, parents. People push to their absolute limit, and when the system fails them, they turn to the supernatural. But Hell Girl doesn't paint revenge as victory. It lingers on consequences. You watch families fall apart, friendships shatter, innocent people punished by mistake. Sometimes the villains are just flawed humans, and sometimes the victims become monsters themselves. AI and her companions don't pass judgment. They simply fulfill the contract. That's what makes the horror so cold. The line between right and wrong just disappears. All that's left is a cycle of suffering. Pain for pain, soul for soul. The scariest part? Not the supernatural punishments, but how easily anyone could justify using that red string. Possum. There's no escape. No matter how many times he burns it, buries it, or leaves it behind, the puppet always comes back. In Possum, you follow Philip, a disgraced puppeteer, returning to his childhood home after a scandal. He carries this grotesque puppet in a black bag. It has a featureless leather face and long, spider-like limbs, and it seems to haunt him with silent judgment. But the horror in Possum isn't about supernatural monsters. It's about trauma. The puppet isn't alive. It's a manifestation of everything Philip can't say, everything he can't face. The more he tries to destroy it, the more he's forced to confront memories buried deep in the walls of his past. The film is almost silent, with long stretches of stillness that make every creak, every movement feel unbearable. It's not about jump scares, it's about discomfort, about the weight of guilt that never leaves. The longer you watch, the clearer it becomes. The real terror isn't in the puppet, it's in what it represents. Philip's childhood, his relationship with his uncle, the things that were done and left unsaid. Possum slowly reveals a disturbing truth that was hiding in plain sight all along. There's no monster under the bed. The monster lives in memory, and it never really dies. Lake Mungo, 16-year-old Alice Palmer drowns during a family outing. What follows isn't just a ghost story. It's a slow, heartbreaking unraveling of grief. Lake Mungo is presented as a documentary with home videos, interviews, and found footage stitched together to tell the story of Alice's death and what might have come after. Her parents and brother try to make sense of what happened, but every new discovery only deepens the mystery. Strange figures appear in photos, doors creak open in the night, and Alice seems to be watching from somewhere. But the real fear doesn't come from jump scares or paranormal activity. It comes from what's left behind: secrets, guilt, and the desperate need for closure. You learn that Alice was living with emotional weight no one saw coming. Her private fears were quietly captured in cell phone footage and diary entries, and when her brother fakes ghost sightings to help his mother cope, it blurs the line between comforting lies and painful truth. There's one moment, near the end, that redefines everything. A photo taken at Lake Mungo, months before Alice's death. It suggests she might have known what was coming. The horror of Lake Mungo isn't just about seeing a ghost, it's about what haunts the living. The fear that we'll never really know the people we love and that sometimes they're already gone long before we realize. The Autopsy of Jane Doe. It starts like any routine case. A beautiful, unnamed woman is found dead at a crime scene with no visible injuries. Her body is rushed to the local morgue where father and son, coroners Tommy and Austin Tilden, begin the autopsy. And then things stop making sense. Externally, Jane Doe looks untouched. Internally, her body tells a completely different story. Signs of harm that don't match her untouched appearance. But her skin? Flawless. No bruising, no burns, no signs of trauma. It's as if her body lived through horrors while leaving no trace on the surface. As the autopsy progresses, the atmosphere in the morgue shifts. Radios cut in and out. Doors creak open. Strange symbols are discovered inside her. The deeper they dig, the more impossible things become, until it's clear that this isn't just a body, it's a warning. The Autopsy of Jane Doe is a slow descent into dread, where medical science collides with something far older and more dangerous. The film doesn't overload you with explanations. It builds fear through silence, through isolation, through the realization that you're not in control anymore. Jane Doe never moves, but somehow she's the one dissecting everyone else. Session 9. Danvers State Hospital hasn't housed patients in years, but its walls still feel occupied. The paint is peeling, the silence is heavy, and beneath it all, something lingers. In Session 9, an asbestos removal crew is hired to clean out the abandoned asylum. What starts as just another job quickly turns into something darker. As the crew explores the decaying halls, tensions rise and old traumas start to surface. But it's not just the building getting inside their heads, it's something much worse. At the center of it all is Gordon Fleming, the team leader trying to hold everything together. He's under financial stress. He has a newborn at home. And the longer he stays in Danvers, the more he changes. Quietly, subtly, until the man who walked in isn't the same one walking out. The team uncovers a set of old therapy tapes, sessions with a patient named Mary Hobbs, who suffers from multiple personalities. Each recording reveals a deeper layer of psychological damage, and as Gordon listens, it's almost like the voices are speaking directly to him. Session 9 is horror without ghosts. It's about what happens when stress, guilt, and unresolved trauma are amplified by a place built on human suffering. The asylum doesn't need to haunt you, it just waits for you to break. And when you do, it's already too late. Dark fracture. Speaking of fractured realities, madness spreads like infection through the abandoned Beechwood Asylum. Reality itself has contracted a terminal illness within these walls. The creatures hunting you through the corridors were once doctors and patients. They glimpsed something beyond human understanding, their minds shattered trying to process truths too fundamental for human consciousness. The building warps around your presence like a living organism. Walls breathe with organic rhythm. Floors shift like living tissue beneath your feet. Geometry becomes fluid and completely unreliable. Each revelation splits your perception further. You can no longer distinguish between genuine supernatural phenomena and complete psychological breakdown. The asylum doesn't create insanity, it harvests it, feeding on fractured minds to sustain its impossible architecture. Former patients wander the halls, their bodies twisted into impossible shapes. Their minds scatter across multiple realities simultaneously. The deeper you venture, the clearer it becomes. This place wasn't built to treat the insane. It's where sanity itself comes to die, processed and recycled into the very foundations. Boogiepop Phantom. Urban legends take a different approach to reality's collapse. After a mysterious explosion fractures the city, nightmares begin bleeding into daily life. Teenagers don't simply die in this world. They're erased from existence entirely, edited out by forces that hunt evolutionary anomalies before they can corrupt the species. Boogiepop appears when humanity threatens to evolve beyond its moral boundaries. It serves as a cosmic immune system against progress that would destroy the soul along with suffering. Each episode peels back layers of a conspiracy where technological advancement has become monstrous. The next step in human development requires abandoning everything that makes us recognizably human. The city transforms into a laboratory for species-level trauma. Ordinary citizens unwittingly participate in experiments designed to push consciousness beyond its natural limits. Strange phenomena manifest in electronics, in dreams, in the spaces between thoughts where identity becomes fluid. The explosion didn't cause these changes, it merely revealed that human evolution was already accelerating towards something post-human, and only death can prevent the transformation from completing itself.
Subscribe for more interesting stuff. Tell us your experience in the comments.